Dear children, welcome to the Standard 6 Literature class. Today I am going to teach you Chapter 13, Fifth Form Justice. Kindly all of you open at page number 134. Fifth Form Justice was written by Angela Brazil. Was an English writer popularly known for her school stories. She was born in Preston, UK. She was highly interested in sketching. Fifth Form Justice is a chapter from the novel Monasteries Merely, which was published in 1922. The novel revolves around the story of the two Ramses girls, Merle and Mavis. In Fifth Form Justice, the two sisters are shown struggling to prove themselves against the allegations of cheating in an examination. So let's see the story. The examinations at the end of the school term were due. Mavis and Merle had missed much on account of the mumps, and when they attempted some revision, they were absolutely horrified at the amount that had to be done. They did their best and studied till their heads ached. On the evening before the first examination, they were sitting in their father's, Dr. Ramsay's study revision several rather rusty subjects, when Clive walked in. "Hello, kid, you are not allowed in here. We are working," warned Merle. Her young cousin grinned. "I know, and you have got to stop it. I have been sent to tell you to shut those books up at once." "Did mother say so?" "She did. She says you have done enough, and you will only muddle yourselves if you go on any longer." Mumps means a disease that causes fever and swelling in the salivary glands, especially in children. "We shan't pass," sighed Mavis. "Yes, you will. Listen to the oracle and he will give you a tip or two." A little bird told him you should look up Celtic words in the English language, the life and works of William Cowper, and the products of Java and Borneo. Merle giggled. "How clever you are all of a sudden. What do you know about our exam subjects?" Clive winked solemnly, first with one eye and then with another. "Perhaps I am in communication with the occult," he remarked. "Don't people go to fortune tellers and astrologers when they want to learn about their future?" Oracle means a person or a thing who or which makes predictions. Occult means relating to the supernatural. Children, turn the page. "I am your wizard tonight." "All right, tell us our fortunes." "I will do a little fortune telling if you like." Clive seized a glass paperweight and staring at it, pretending to throw himself into a state of abstraction. "I see an examination room," he declared. "I see rows of desks and girls writing at them. There are lists of questions. I am peeping over their shoulders and they are puzzling about the products of Java and Borneo. The life and works of William Cowper and the Celtic words in the English language. You and Mavis are scribbling ahead for all you are worth. A very pretty picture, I am sure. Can't you tell us some more? Alas, no. And it's your bedtime, said Mavis. I expect you were on your way upstairs when you came in here. Confess. There's no hurry. I will stay and tell yours too if you like. No thanks. This will do for both of us. Is mother in the drawing room? Come along, Merrily. We won't work any more tonight. Oh, I must just look up. What was it? The products of Java and Borneo. William Cowper and Celtic words, there's luck in them. Just for 5 minutes, get off to bed, you kid, and leave me to work. Rather reluctantly, Mavis fell in with her sister's humor and reopened her textbooks. Abstraction means deep thought without paying attention to surroundings. Clive's only fooling, she said. I know, and so am I. Here we are, Celtic words in use in the English language. You can't squint over my shoulder if you like. The 5 minutes lengthened out till Mrs. Ramsay came herself and put a finish to the preparation. It's silly to overdo it. You will only have headaches tomorrow and be able to remember nothing. Come along to the drawing room. Yes, Mummy, darling, I am just strapping up my books. There I will leave them here on the hall table. I promise you I won't take them upstairs. Hello, here's my jersey. I was hunting for it everywhere after tea and couldn't find it. It feels wet. How funny. Has anybody been out in it? Give it to Alice and ask her to put it by the kitchen fire to dry. Merrily marched into school the next morning, joking about her fortune. She told the girls what the oracle had said and how she had ground up those particular bits of information. I am sporting enough to give you the tip, she laughed. Clive was only making fun and ragging us, qualified Mavis. He is a silly boy. There was no time for any more last looks. However, the bell was ringing for call over and all books had to be put away. In the fifth form room, Miss Mitchell dealt around round typewritten sheets of questions and the agony began. The English language and literature paper was not nearly so bad as Mavis and Merrily had expected, and curiously enough, there were questions both on William Cowper and Celtic words. It was such a coincidence that Merrily could not help looking at Mavis and smiling. They were both well prepared and wrote away at full speed, almost enjoying themselves, and worked steadily till Miss Mitchell said, "Pens down." After 11 o'clock came the examination on geography. When she So, the first question, describe the products of Java and Borneo. Merely gave such a chuckle that many eyes were cast in her direction. Miss Mitchell glared a warning again. Mavis and Merle found themselves well prepared and scribbled continuously till the bell rang. Ragging means teasing, and shrugged means moved their shoulders to show indifference. How did you get on? Said Merle to Muriel as they walked downstairs from their classroom. I say, wasn't it funny about my fortune? Why, we had the exact questions. I never heard of anything so queer in my life. Very queer, answered Muriel with restraint in her voice. She was looking at Elva, who shrugged her shoulders significantly. Some people have all they lack, remarked Sybil. Well, it was pure guessing by Clive. How did he know what exams you were going to have? Oh, he's heard us talking about them. Of course. I wish I had a cousin who could guess the questions beforehand. Turn the page, children. We had all get honors on those lines. When Mavis and Merle returned to school after lunch, they each found a little note laid down their desks marked urgent. You are requested to attend an important meeting to be held in the boarders' sitting room at the hostel immediately after 4. There was no signature, but the writing was Livas. The Ramses were much mystified as day girls. They had nothing to do with the hostel and could only go there by special invitation. When afternoon school was over, they asked some of the boarders the meaning of the letter. Nobody would explain. You will find out when you get there, was Nesta's cryptic reply. Puzzled and considerably distressed at a certain offensive attitude exhibited by Sybil and others, Mavis and Merle walked across the garden to the hostel. Eva had cleared all the younger girls out of the boarders' sitting room and was waiting in company with Nesta, Muriel, Aubrey, Edith, and Kitty. As soon as the Ramses and Sybil came in, Sybil closed the door. Eva settled herself and looked somehow embarrassed, as if not knowing quite how to begin. She fidgeted for a moment with her pencil and cleared her throat. We are all here, she said at last, except Faye, who couldn't stay. What we have met for is to ask Mavis and Merle to explain how they got to know some of the examination questions beforehand. It seems queer to us, to say the least of it. The Ramses, overwhelmed with amazement at such palpable initiation, turned wrathfully red. Why, we have told you, Clive gasped merrily. Okay, student, the rest of this part we will discuss in my next video. Till then, bye bye.